Hey folks, Adam here at OpenOrg. I'm about to give you a whiz through of our Workspace product, but before I dive in and show you around, I just want to quickly position who this is for and why you might use this. Very quickly, this is specifically built for startup, scale up people and talent teams. We're talking 10 employees to a couple of thousand, that sort of space and size. You're typically solo, lean, stretched, under-resourced, scrapping for ideas, templates, don't have anyone to soundboard with, spar with. You're leaning heavily on community and resources. This is exactly why OpenOrg exists. We exist to help startup solo people teams to thrive. And we've spent a few years now collecting and creating open resources to help people teams to thrive. And Workspace is our next iteration of our own evolution to make it even easier for people teams to find those resources, but also to start creating their own resources as well, underpinned by that knowledge base that we have built. Why you might use something like this is our own AI. You might use something right now like a Claude or a ChatGPT. This is another option for you to use. Why might you use this instead of a Claude or a ChatGPT day to day? When you're using a larger AI model like a Claude or a ChatGPT, you are using one that has been trained on the open internet. Much larger, vaguer, probably enterprise, corporate training on stats and reports and templates. So when you're asking questions, you're probably going to be getting a much more generic answers and outputs back. And when you're building things, they're probably building things with slightly more corporate frameworks in mind. When you're building with our Workspace, you get the added benefit of already being plugged into Claude. We use Claude's commercial API, so you are effectively using Claude's power there from that point of view. But you're also engaging with a layer of our own private, exclusive, 10,000 strong knowledge base of startup specific HR resources. So if you are asking to build compensation philosophies or competency frameworks or policies and handbooks, or looking to get coaching on how you might approach a certain situation, you are doing so utilizing a knowledge base that Claude and ChatGPT do not have, and you're building in a much more relevant way, much more specific way. And these typically are resources that have been built by us after distilling years of consulting experience with startups, or having been built by other startup people teams and shared openly. So that's one of the reasons why you might use this. You might use this because you love creating and building with AI, but you are finding maybe that some of the other models are a little bit generic, a little bit vague. Maybe you get thrown very corporate, fluffy stats and research and outputs, and you want to dive a little bit deeper to build based on what other startups are doing. You can come to OpenOrg's Workspace and go from there. So let's dive in. I'm just going to show you what's in here. We do have a free layer to this, so anyone can sign up and get into here completely for free and access a certain amount of things. I'm going to show you quickly what is accessible for free, and then what that creator plan that we have, which is the paid tier, offers folks as well. So in the Workspace, you've got Openverse. Openverse is our community library, effectively, of open source resources. We've got hundreds and hundreds of resources in here that have either been built by us or curated by us, or added and launched by other people out there. So you've got a huge mix of things in here that you can openly access that have been built by other teams. You've got things like templates for how someone else might have run a half-day people team workshop on AI and automation. You've got things like whistleblowing templates, so policy templates. You've got playbooks on how to run redundancy processes. You've got handbook examples from other companies you can look at. Real wealth of things that you can dive into here that have been created by other people, and you can go and find them, look at them, utilize them, take them, do whatever you want with them. Effectively, it's an amazing space to get inspiration and to help you get from idea to version 0, version 1 very quickly. And this is accessible to everyone who signs up to use a Workspace completely for free, and always will be. We also have our own OpenOrg playbooks within here as well. These are our own creations and curations. These have been distilled from 25 combined years of consulting with and working as people leaders in startups and scale ups. So you've got a bunch of playbooks in here that are really helpful, that help you tackle things like creating better feedback culture, working through conflict, creating and building your performance framework, how we use AI and roll it out in the business. some really, really cool things, and they help take you through some very challenging people and culture challenges step by step. So these are great manual reads over a coffee. If you've got 15-20 minutes and you just want to absorb and read and think about how you might approach something, we've broken these down step by step, guidance throughout, etc. And you've also got at the end of every one a plethora of incredible resources and tools and ideas and books and other stuff like that you can go out and look at, and you can see here some example live frameworks and how other companies do performance. So that lives inside the playbooks, but also lives in our broader knowledge base and ecosystem. And again, just to stress the fact, this is what you aren't necessarily getting if you are using something like a Claude to try and build your performance framework. If you use our Workspace, you are getting access to some of these other companies and how they might approach doing it in a more startup specific context. So our playbooks are really helpful. Folks tend to love them, and they're brilliant. And you can access these again on our freemium layer however much you want. You also get some level of access to our AI, and I will just talk about that very quickly. Everyone in the free layer gets 10 free credits to use, to experiment, to play with, to get a feel for how AI works. If you upgrade to our creator plan, you get unlimited credits. There is no cap, no daily caps like you might get with the other models. Use this as much as you want for whatever you want. And let's just dive in and just show you our AI, because this is the real exciting part of what we think we're building for the Workspace, and really is changing a lot of people teams' daily habits and saving them a heap of time. So we built our AI primarily last year, initially to help solve a problem that we had, and that we had built this ecosystem of tens of thousands of resources across different sites and areas, and that was great, but actually people were starting to find it really hard to find the resource they needed still, and that was a problem for us. So when we initially built AI, the core purpose was actually to find you the right resource in our ecosystem within seconds, and that was great and worked really well, and you can still use our AI to do that if you want. However, we've evolved that now and moved on, and we now have a few different modes to that. So we have our find mode, which is primarily for finding the right resource that you want within our platform and in ecosystem. We've also got a few other modes as well. We've got research mode, if you want to go out to the wider web and research, do things like salary benchmarking or trends. That's where Claude's API kicks in. So you can use research mode, ask questions. Effectively, you're asking Claude questions. So you can still effectively be using Claude from within our platform to ask very similar questions and get the same results back. We've also got coach mode, which is incredible. If you're a solo, lean, maybe lonely, startup people leader who doesn't have anyone to spar with, coach mode is incredible. We have worked really hard to build a mode that pushes you quite hard, asks you questions, doesn't just give you the answer you want, and helps navigate you through some really, really tricky scenarios. Get a lot of folks asking tricky questions about how to navigate exec team problems, how to navigate ER challenges that they might be facing with their teams. Coach mode is really, really helpful in those sorts of scenarios, and it's a great daily use for a lot of teams. And then we've got create. Create is where a lot of work tends to happen, and it tends to be the mode that most tend to operate in. Create is where you can start actually building things within our platform, and we've got typically a few different types of file that you can create here. We've got docs, Word docs, we've got PowerPoint files, we've got spreadsheets, and you can also create things as markdown. So if you're working on something like a Notion, for example, and you want simple markdown that you can copy and paste straight into your handbook, you can do it like that as well. All your documents get saved in here, which I will show you in a minute. And you can access those in other chats, you can export them, do whatever you want, and we'll dive in again and have a look at that as well. As an FYI, you automatically switch between modes as you're chatting to AI, and you might see that in the chat in a minute just as an example, but you don't have to necessarily think about which mode you need to be in. Our AI will automatically detect the requests that you're asking and actually go and suggest a mode switch for you. So let's just dive in really quickly and just show you a little bit about how this works and what this might look like in the context of everything that I've talked about. So I am currently in find mode. I am a people leader. Let's say I've got a problem with feedback culture in my business. Hey, what resources do you have on the platform to help me with feedback culture? So bear with me, sometimes it can take a few seconds to think through things. If you've used AI before, you'll know that. But what it will be doing now effectively is actually searching through our own platform first. So again, stressing the point, when you're working on our workspace, you are not working with the wider internet necessarily. You are also primarily pulling from a really specific knowledge base that we have built and curated, and that is ours, and that's accessible only to folks who are in the workspace. So you can pull back resources that live within our ecosystem and just work your way from there. And what you've got here effectively is some like really useful resources that you can go and look at. These other companies that do things really, really well and have open sourced how they might approach certain things. So you can dive into them, check them out, etc., and so on and so forth. Let's say we've got a feedback playbook in our platform as well, and you can actually tag resources and playbooks and other things. So I showed you Openverse earlier, I showed you our playbooks. What you can actually do on our platform is actually do this. So I actually loved the back culture playbook. Let's just move this out of the way. So actually I'm just going to show you this, it's easier. Down the bottom here you can see you can tag skills, which we haven't got into. These automatically switch, but we've got some very, very specialist skills that we've built. Think about them a bit like custom GPTs, if you like. So very like handcrafted, very specific set of instructions that you can work with inside the platform. It will again automatically detect when there's an opportunity to use that skill and suggest it to you. So you don't have to worry too much, but there's a variety of skills there that exist already that you can utilize. You can tag our playbooks, you can tag your own documents, your existing documents that you've created. So if you created something in another chat previously, you can pull that into a new chat and work with that and bring that context in, which is very cool. You can tag a lot of the Openverse resources as well, which is really cool. And also we've got a newsletter archive which has got some amazing stuff in it, and you can bring those newsletters in as well. So you can tag a lot of things, and I'm going to just tag our feedback playbook, feedback culture playbook. Can you help me build my own version of that to run in my company? So the playbooks are amazing, and I said earlier you could spend 10-15 minutes reading through them over a coffee if you wanted to, and they're great for inspiration and ideas, but actually we wanted to find a way of making them more actionable rather than just static documents. And this is how you might do that. So you can tag a playbook, you can then give the AI some more context. I haven't gone too deep here, but you could, for example, stress that actually we're a remote business with 35 people, so on and so forth. Build me this for my context. On that note as well, just while it's building that, our AI will learn about you and your context over time, just like a Claude or a ChatGPT as well. So as you're chatting to our AI, it will be effectively filling out and saving it. All the context across your company, the tools, the systems you use, your challenges, your work style, all of that sort of stuff. And you can also manually edit this and update your context as well. So in theory, you shouldn't have to, for example, say we're remote and we're 35 people, but I'm just giving you that as an example. You can tailor these playbooks however you want to make sure that you've got something that works for you. And you can then take that off the platform and use it internally however you decide you like to as well. So right now, AI is creating a Word-based doc that we can then look at, edit, tweak, and it's just finished doing that now. So if you hit open, you'll see it in preview. Looks smart, looks clean, looks tidy, and you can go and edit this as much as you want. You can also, if you realize you want to change it, you can roll back different versions. We won't have any other ones here at the moment because we've just created this, and then you can also download it if and when you're ready as well into a Word doc. You can tweak that with AI and go back and forth if you want until you're happy with it, but just as an example, you can see exactly what this has done. And this has broken it down again, but kept the core structure that we've got in our playbook as well, and tweaked it to my context that it's learned and understands. Let's take it further and just show you a little bit about how you might create other docs here. So let's say I love that. Now I want to build a deck that I can share with my managers to run some feedback training. So this is great. Can you please build me a PowerPoint deck that I can use as a training deck for my managers on how we run this feedback. Again, similar to before, what it will do is go and take that, what we've already built, and the playbook that we're working with as well, and create a PowerPoint that we can then again take. The PowerPoint will probably need some tweaking. You might want to go and add your own branding, your logo, however you might want to do that. What you'll get here with our AI is a really good sort of version 1 that hopefully gets you about 80-90% of the way there without having to build out slides and the content in those slides. And then you can add those finishing touches. You can tweak and edit color and a few other bits and bobs on here as well, but you'll probably still want to take this and tweak it and finalize it too. I'm just going to give it a minute or so to finish building and then kick on. Awesome, so it's finished building the PowerPoint. Again, I'll just give you a peek so you can see a little bit about what that's built. It's taken a lot of the core content from the playbook and from your contextual doc that you've created, and it's built a deck that you can then start thinking about how you might present that to your managers to, if you wanted to run a training session, for example, around what good feedback culture looks like, how we approach it, our 3-stage program. Again, this is grounded in the playbook that you found, and it's very, very startup specific, and you can take that, export it, download it as much as you wish. One final example for you, just to show you exactly what the platform can do from a docs creation perspective. Let's say, for example, I want to create a tracker that I can use to track which managers have actually run this feedback training with their own teams. So this is great. Now I want to create a tracker from a spreadsheet that I can use to manage and track how many of my managers have actually completed and run the feedback training with their own teams, please. So again, similar flow to before, taking everything we've built already, taking everything that is grounded in that resource that we found on OpenOrg's platform in the first instance. This is highly startup specific. We haven't gone out to the wider internet, the wider web to gather bigger, broader enterprise, corporate, generic data. And very, very quickly there, it's going to build me, will probably be a very simple tracker, but just for example, you can jump in and see that. So it's built that, it's good. You've got a few tabs in here already. You can fill these bits and bobs out. You've got a notes and actions tab and sheet, and again you can download that as an Excel file and tweak it and change it from there as much as you want. It's very, very cool. Show you a couple of bits and bobs as well that you can do. Again, I stress that you can tag other documents. So if you've created a document in a previous conversation like we've just done here, but you'd like to pull that in and say, actually, you know what, could we also add something from this session or that session in here? You can work with your documents across the platform, which is really, really cool. You can switch between modes manually here if you want to as well. And also you've got your document library up here as well. So you can, through here, access all of your previous docs that you've ever created. You can export them all manually if you want and start working with them, but they also live here if you ever want to come back, update them, etc. You've got that ability to do that here too. If you're feeling particularly generous and you have the capability to do so, you've also got the opportunity to publish these to the Openverse, which I showed you earlier. So this is creating like a really exciting, we think, feedback, like really exciting sort of like loop to help people teams. So once you've created something, you can sanitize it and remove any identifying information for your company. So we've got ability with one button just to generalize that doc and turn it effectively into a template. And then you can hit publish, add it to the Openverse so that other people teams can benefit from the work that you've done and find it way easier when they have to come and build feedback training or a deck or their own playbook for something like this as well. And the more people that do this, the better the product comes for everyone as well. So that's a whiz round the workspace for you. We've got a couple of other bits on here as well worth mentioning. We do have a marketplace full of some really, really cool HR tech providers and HR service providers with discounts and perks and so on and so forth. This is specifically for paid users, so creator users. Again, you've got the free layer, which is Openverse and playbooks and some free AI credits to get used to how it works. And then when you're ready, you can upgrade to the creator plan, which gives you unlimited use of AI plus the marketplace. And we also, very, very finally, we have a team plan as well. So you can, if you've got a few people in your team, if you're lucky enough to not be flying completely solo, you can get a team license and add your team on here and work with your team in a few different ways, which is really, really cool. So come and check it out. You can sign up for free at openorg.fyi and have fun.